One of the central themes that's mentioned in this week's parsha, and it'll be repeated again, is that of corruption, of shochad. Torah says, Osika shochad, you should not allow yourself to be corrupted. So it says it in the parsha of shoftim, regarding the judicial system, which is often given to corruption. So there the Torah says the problem with shochad, but shochad is more than that, because the Torah says shochad yave pikrim. Shochad has the ability that even people that are wise and intelligent, they're analytical, see things correctly, it blinds them because of the corruption that's involved. So they don't see what's in front of them. And not only that, even people who are righteous, if somehow they are subject to corruption, so then their words come out to be crooked, changeable, not reliable. So the Torah portrays for us a very serious problem, which is omnipresent. It's not just a matter of government or of judges or judicial. I remember the satmar of told me many times when I would speak to him in Miami Beach, so he would say, the ganze Welt is mishuchet. The whole world is corrupt, subject to shochad. And we tried to measure it. So we have something that, it's not real shochad, but it's nigud inyanim. It's conflict of interest. Well, everything's a conflict of interest. How do you measure that? And so even though we try and have laws passed and judgments given, at the end of the day, it's pretty much subjective. I mean, all our politicians are guilty of nigud inyanim, because when they run for office, they make you promises that can't be. So in order to get your vote, they're telling you things that can't be. But that's an acceptable shochad. It's acceptable. That's the nature of the game, so to speak. We expect that. And if people are foolish enough to believe them, so it's their problem. But there is a higher form of shochad that exists within all of us, and that is our prejudices, how we are programmed to see what happens, so that facts are very hard to deal with. And when we have facts that don't fit our program, then we deny those facts, or we say the facts are not correct. So that is a form of inner corruption. And so therefore, shochad is a very, very wide field. It's not just that it's a payoff to somebody. That's obvious. And there's a great deal of gray matter. What is considered a payoff? Right? So in the Gemara says, for instance, the Gemara held itself, the rabbis of the Talmud held themselves to very exacting standards. So the Gemara says that once Din Torah came in front of Mar Shmuel, who was the Rav in Ardoa, who was the Dayan, and he saw the parties and he disqualified himself. So they asked him why. So he said, because he took shochad. So they said, what do you mean he took shochad? He said, yesterday I was walking on the bridge over the river. Nardoa is on the Tigris. So I was walking over the bridge, and it's a very narrow bridge. So this man got out of the way to let me go first. So he said, that's shochad. So I already have an opinion of him. He's a nice man. He's mokir rabbonon. He gives respect to rabbis. He got out of the way. So I'm therefore influenced, always influenced. Well, if we held ourselves to those standards, so then very little that could ever happen. But the Gemara illustrates it as the depth of understanding how susceptible to corruption we are without even realizing it, without even thinking. Because who would think that because the man let me go first, I can't judge him? I'm a big Talmud Chacham, I know everything, I'll hear the facts, I'm above. I'm above the law. I'm not corrupt. But corruption apparently is a subconscious thing. It's not necessarily a conscious thing. It's not that I'm really taking something. It's forming an opinion in advance. It's coming from a certain direction. And because of that, therefore, all of us are guilty of that. Because we all are formed by previous ideas, by life experiences, by how we view people. And so the Torah limited the Aveira lo sikach shochad, so that's real shochad, etc., etc. There are halachas. But in the broader moral sense, the Torah wanted us to realize that that's an omnipresent danger in all society. And therefore, we have to be very careful how we make judgments, because the judgments that I make are not necessarily based on impartial views. In fact, we could say 99% they're based on views that I already have. And therefore, one has to be careful. And that's really regarding people. It's in my experience. Many times, a person that's a leader in a community, or is a Rav, or is a teacher, so he has a negative view of somebody. And most of the time, the negative view is not based on anything. It's just a feeling. And there's a famous bitter joke, chaim sanzer, the divrei chaim Halberstam. So he was a very, very strong personality. He took no prisoners. And even when he was a child. So the story is that when he was 5 years old, his father was mishadech him already to the daughter of a rebbe, who she was 4 years old. And naturally they were going to wait until they grew up, but the shidduch was made. So when he was 5 years old, they made a vort. They brought him into the, to meet the families. So when he walked in, so his father said, do you know who her father is? Do you know who the father-in-law is? He said, yeah, it's him. He said, how do you know it's him? He said, I ate him already. So that's an innate nature within us, that we're quick to make such judgments. So we make judgments based on appearance, on all sorts of things. Today we make them based on dress. However the person dresses. So all of that is included in the ideas of shochad. That's all part of the corruption that we have. And since it's innate in human nature, the Torah cannot ban it. Because that's unrealistic. The Torah never demands things that are impossible for us. So the Torah, so to speak, limited the damage. Real shochad, real cases, judges, etc., etc. But the Torah meant to leave us with that great general impression as to how to view life and how to somehow deal with it. So there's a great Hasidic legend that also fits into this. There was a year in which the wise advisors of the king came to the king and they told him that this year the grain crop is affected by a certain fungus that causes insanity. In America, there was something called loco weed. It really is like an LSD, a type of, it creates hallucinations. So they told him that next year, everybody's going to be crazy. But his advisor said, don't worry, the king, we put aside good grain for you and for us, so that we won't be affected. So the king said, what do you mean you won't be affected? If the whole world is Meshuggah and we're sane, they'll say we're Meshuggah. So the only advice is that we have to eat it too. He said, but we should put a mark on our foreheads so that when we look at each other, we'll know that we're Meshuggah. So that's the idea of Meshuggah here too. Everybody's Meshuggah. But a wise person realizes that he is. And because he realizes it, then he's much more careful in what he says and what he judges and what he behaves. But if he thinks that he's immune, that's Shochad Ya'aver Einei Chachomim V'Yisalev Divrei Tzadikim. Rabbi Chananya ben Akash Omer Rotza Garesh Baruch Hu L'Zakot